Good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of the Rotoworld Fantasy Basketball Q&A. I'm Raphielle Johnson, joined as always by Noah Rubin. Noah, I wouldn't say too busy of a Monday night, but 8 games on the schedule. Were there any fantasy takeaways that you had, from what you saw?
I think probably fantasy takeaways, maybe not as interesting as some of the actual basketball takeaways, such as the 76ers being them, and then the Minnesota OKC game was fun. I think one of my bigger fantasy takeaways was probably Kevin Huerter actually playing pretty well. I guess he wasn't doing much with the Kings. First few games with Chicago weren't great, but since the All-Star break, he's hit 14 threes across 3 games. So, I think that Chicago kind of made it clear that they weren't fully embracing a rebuild or just I guess, embracing a tank. And by blowing out the 76ers, it's kind of clear that they'll probably be the 10 seed. I mean, there's still time for things to change, but I could see Herter playing a pretty significant role for them as a floor spacer and being a pretty reliable source of threes for the rest of the season. So I think he's not necessarily – I think he's a guy that you could pick up.
Yeah, that's a good call. I think when he first made those comments about his role in Sacramento after leaving, like a lot of us laughed at it. Like he didn't really seem to do too much to earn playing time. But now it seems like he's in a far better situation in Chicago. Funny, he ended up starting because Kobe White cut his finger. I don't know how or when he did it, but they couldn't stop the bleeding in time for tip-off. So Kevin was out there for the first 2 minutes, and that really didn't do anything to upset his rhythm. So that was good to see for the very few who have him rostered. For me, I don't know if this is something that can be actionable in fantasy basketball right now, but I kind of wonder about the futures of Terrence Shannon Jr. and Rob Dillingham in Minnesota. Because both of those guys played pretty well last night. Shannon put up a double-double, the first of his career, 17 and 10. And they were huge factors down the stretch in that comeback in the fourth quarter. I think Anthony Edwards, his calf flared up possibly. He said something about blocking the shot on a bad calf after the game, the game-saving layup block on SGA. So I don't know if it's something that we can act on right now, but maybe for next year or even, whether you're in redrafts or dynasties, that might be something that maybe this is the start of something for those two.
Yeah, I think Terrence Shannon Jr. I included him in my waiver wire pickups column last night.
Okay.
Just kind of at the bottom is hey, if you're in a deeper league, maybe this is a guy to consider. Last 5 games, he's played 23.2 minutes, so it's not like it was just a random. He got minutes. Now he was productive. He's actually been part of the rotation recently. Been pretty productive during that stretch. Then obviously last night was the best game of his career. So yeah, I definitely think he's worth keeping an eye on. I think Rob Dillingham and the other rookie who's been starting, Jalen Clark, both of them are more intriguing, probably long-term. I guess Clark more so short-term than long-term. But I think Terrence Shannon Jr. definitely has some short-term value in deeper leagues.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. They're hoping that Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo can return at some point during this road trip that ends on Sunday in Phoenix. So get those guys back. Maybe the young fellows won't help you out too much in fantasy right away, but like Noah said, it's always something worth keeping an eye on. So let's get into some questions since we have them already. First one up is Paul. Is Bismack Biyombo a worthwhile pickup? I mean, I already did it. Just wondering if it's a trap.
I think based on their last game, played 30 minutes, got a double-double, 2 steals, 4 blocks. That's probably the ceiling that we're going to see. I don't think we're going to see that level of production consistently, but if he's playing a significant role, I believe Charles Bassey was out for that game. So I don't know. They have 4 games this week, 2 back-to-backs. So I think he's worth taking a chance on if they're going to continue to play him 25 to 30 minutes per game, and he can get you some rebounds, field goal percentage boost, and some blocks. Then, yeah, I think it's worth taking a chance.
Yeah, I think the one question is, what will the Spurs do with him? Because he's on his second 10 day. It's his second 10 day. So they have to sign him for the rest of the season. if they're going to keep him after that point. So that's something to keep an eye on. But in terms of the immediate future, who else are they going to play? Like Bassey's other knee has flared up recently. So I think he's missed the last two, actually, if I'm not mistaken. I can look that up right now. But Sandro Mamukelashvili, he had one game, but then he was of no consequence in the other two. So I think if Jeremy Sohan isn't available in your league, since he's like 45% rostered, he's been kind of up and down as well. But I think he'd be a safer ad than Biyombo right now. But if you need a center, I can't tell you not to add Biyombo just because there really isn't anything else to talk about there.
Yeah, and Bassey played in the last two games.
Okay.
Looking at it, but had missed time before that. Only played 6 minutes on Sunday, but he is out tonight.
Okay, there we go.
So yeah, not many other encouraging options in San Antonio.
Yeah. Let's see. I think MTS has 3 questions here, so we'll skip to his Spurs question first.
Okay.
What is up with Devin Vassell? I thought Wemby going down would be good for him. More usage at bare minimum. Am I missing something? I don't really think he's missing anything. He's just been poor, Like
he's the one missing.
yeah, that's a good way to put it. I don't know. I guess we tend to focus. I think Stephon Castle was a guy that a lot of people liked even before the Wemby injury, because Vassell hasn't been playing well. I want to say about a month now. This isn't something that obviously the injury, like we thought it would potentially be a catalyst for him, but it hasn't worked out that way. If they're going to continue to trot him out there as a starter, I don't know. Like, you're not going to be able to get much trade value for him with the deadline in public leagues coming up pretty soon. But I don't know if you can just outright drop him either.
Yeah, it's been a rough season overall for him, and I think just becoming even a more of a focal point of the opposing defense just make things a little bit more difficult on him. So I think also looking at the last 2 games, both blowout losses, he only played 24 minutes in each of those. So I think it's just going to take the Spurs a little bit of time to figure things out, how this fits with no Wemby, with De'Aaron Fox, because they were still learning how to play with De'Aaron Fox. So I don't know. I don't think that Vassell's a guy that you drop. And I'm hoping that as they play more games that he'll just get more efficient and improve. But it's definitely been discouraging the last handful of games.
Yeah. Okay, and his first question is Bub Carrington a hold? 12-team 9K head-to-head. They can't keep playing these old men over him. I feel you, and I agree. You just got to keep the faith, man. They beat the Nets last night, so you kind of wonder if – I think one scenario is like maybe they win a couple games with those vets playing well, then it's like that's not the plan here. And then they start resting them or just sitting them down for extended stretches outright. But I think this is a question where it depends on where you are in your league standings. Like, if you can afford to hold on to Bub Carrington, I think you should. But if you need production, you're fighting for playoff position or to simply get in, he's probably not a hold right now at this point.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting situation in Washington because they have guys like Marcus Smart, Chris Middleton, and I guess Malcolm Brogdon hasn't really been playing because he's been hurt. But these like vets that playing alongside their young guys, like it's just good for their development.
Yep.
So it's like they don't necessarily want to just like throw these young guys to the wolves, but at the same time, like they're gonna still play plenty of minutes. I don't know. At some point, Bub Carrington is going to start, but it just keeps feeling like they're putting him in and then taking him out, putting him in, taking him out. And that's going to continue. So at some point, it could be mid-March, could be early April. It's hard to say at this point, but at some point he's going to start and play 35 minutes per game. They're just going to see what they can do because, I mean, that's what happened right before the All-Star break, and the results were really good.
Yeah, and he still played 25 minutes last night. That you'd obviously want that over 30, but it's not like we're talking about someone who's dropped to 12 to 15 minutes per night. So, no need to necessarily panic just yet. All right. Streaming Nurkic yesterday and today. In any universe, is he a hold beyond that? I have no clue how Mark Williams will be handled, and I'm pretty sure Charlotte may be in the same boat. Yeah, it's a good way to put it. It's funny that I think Williams and his agent both came out and said that he didn't fail the physical, that the Lakers said he failed, that avoided the trade. So who knows what's going on there, but have they even announced if he's going to play tonight? Well, he's probable, it looks like. So, well, they still haven't come out with their full-on injury report since they played last night. I assume he'll play tonight. Man, that's a good question with Nurk. Like, I guess he's a hold. Like, he's still rostered in like over half of Yahoo leagues right now. So there's surely some people who still have faith in him, but I don't know, man. That's one of those problems I'd prefer not to have on my roster.
Yeah, I think it was, I guess, a little bit encouraging that he played 27 minutes last night.
Yeah.
Before that, he hadn't played 20 minutes in a game with the Hornets. I guess he's a hold, especially when they do have back-to-backs. I don't know when their next one is. I guess it's not within the next week or two. But he's playing about 15, 18 minutes per game off the bench when Mark Williams is available. And he's been productive for that amount of time, but I don't think that makes him like a must-hold player in standard leagues.
Yeah, their next back-to-back isn't until Friday, Saturday of next week. So,
okay,
it's a situation where it's not like you're going to have to like drop him, then he's stuck on the waiver wire and you won't be able to get him back for the next one. So you'll have ample time, to pick him back up again, if you're willing to play that game with Nurkic in terms of his being rostered. Okay, Brian, thanks for tuning in. Knowing Oklahoma City has a bad playoff schedule, 3-3-4 weeks 20 through 22. Pacers are a 4-4-4. Should I trade Chet for Tyrese Halliburton straight up?
And Chet hasn't been playing back-to-backs, has he?
No, he hasn't. He sat out last night. Yeah.
So let's see. I don't know these weeks off the top of my head. Is it week 17 right now?
It is, week 17 right now. So week 20, Oklahoma City, no back-to-backs. 21, no back-to-backs.
Doesn't look like
20. They don't have any back-to-backs those playoff weeks. But given how far ahead they are of the pack in the West, you may still have like some rest opportunities in there for him. It depends on how much they value having the best overall record in the NBA and also what happens with Cleveland. So I think this is a trade I would probably make because I think the Pacers are going to be fighting for playoff position during these weeks. Halliburton, he's been better recently. I think he had 15 assists last night. So, I think I would make this trade, to set yourself up for the playoff weeks personally.
Yeah, I agree. I think unless you just really need the blocks or you really need rebounds or a specific category that Chet gives you that Halliburton doesn't, then I think I would do this deal. I think definitely the extra 2 games there helps a lot. So,
Let's see. Okay, there is a huge gap in the rebounds. And Halliburton's at 3.5 and Chet's at 8. So that'll be something where you're going to get value in other areas, obviously, but it will help even more if you have the ability to compensate for the lost rebounding still on your roster. Okay, another Devin Vassell question. Dropped in the same league. Should I pick him up? I'm in first place, so I'm just preparing for the playoffs at this point. Stashing players with good playoff schedules. Can't be this bad forever, right?
I'm a believer in Devin Vassell, and yes, I agree with you. So like, I wouldn't let him sit on my waiver wire.
Yeah, I think I would do that as well. Let me pull up their schedule to see what they have here. See, week 24 games. It looks like 4, 4, 4, and 4. So yeah, another good schedule there. But yeah, I think Vassell, as poorly as he's played over the last month or so, and then his season-long value, I think he's worth the risk because he's not good enough to where they would probably shut him down, I think. So yeah, I think he would be a good stash right now. Chad asks, is Killian Hayes purely a punt field goal percentage option as a silly season star? Or is he going to provide enough tertiary value to stomach that in other builds?
I don't think he necessarily has to be a punt field goal percentage guy just because he doesn't shoot a ton.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's taken 5.3 shots per game, like in his 3 games with the Nets. I think unless you really need the bump in assists, then he probably isn't going to be able to do much for you because he hasn't really provided value in any other category. I mean, he doesn't really turn the ball over for a guy dishing out as many assists as he has, but that's really all he's doing. Like, he's not scoring much. The rebounds aren't great. The defensive numbers aren't great. Like, he has a block in each game, but like, I don't really consider him like a guy I'm counting on to give me a block per game. So it's really just the boost and assists. And I think that's something you need to consider in a category league.
What I will say for him is that he is on a 10-day contract. So it's a similar situation to Bismack Biyombo, where he's still eligible for a second 10-day. But at that point, it's like, okay, do you sign him for the rest of the season after that second one expires? So I don't know if I can put him in the silly season star category for that reason, just because we don't know if he's going to have an opportunity to play out the season in Brooklyn. So, no, you can certainly get value in some of those categories, like defensive categories, but he's not someone I would be looking to have on my roster right now, whether it's for the short term or with an eye towards the silly season.
Yeah, I think so his 10-day, I believe he signed on February 19th.
Yeah,
so I think
he's got another 4 days. Yeah.
So is it? I never remember. Is that like day 0 or is that considered day 1? In which case, the 10-day would expire on March 1st and he can't play March 1st, or is that the last day of the contract? That's what I'm trying to. Because that would be the difference between 2 or 3 games more this week.
Yeah, I think day 0 is when you sign, because it's why like the Warriors with Kevin Knox, why they didn't officially announce it until they got out of the All-Star break, even though it was reported during the break.
Gotcha.
So obviously they can always give him a second 10-day at this point to make sure he's available. But
will be the revenge game in Detroit on Saturday if he gets
Killian Hayes goes for like 15, 10 assists and 3 steals.
Please let it happen. That would be incredible.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Right, cool. Yeah, let's get serious. And Kool-Aid Trippin is back. Good day to you as well. Are we still holding Brandon Ingram, or is it time to let go?
It's time to let go.
Yeah. Unless you absolutely need to stash him in an IL spot just to have an extra roster spot for whatever reason. And I don't even know why you do that. It's time to let him go, because even if he were to play, you're looking at nothing more than a test drive, in my opinion, just to get him a couple games on the floor, see how healthy he is, see how he potentially fits with Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett, and Emmanuel Quickley. And I don't even know if that's going to be a priority for Toronto, because obviously they said during the press conference they just want him to be healthy for next season. So, yeah, I think you have to let him go. And I say this while still having him stashed on one of my rosters. So
I have him in at least, I think just 1, maybe 2 IR spots, just because I don't have anybody else to put there. So I'm just leaving him there. But so I guess that's the way to look at it, is if you need somebody else to put in an IR spot or IL spot, then drop him, please. Like if I need somebody else in there, then I'm going to have no problems dropping him. But I guess you don't have to. I mean, maybe you want him on there for team morale. I don't know.
There you go. All right. What's wrong with Lou Dort and Casey Wallace? Dort has been putrid lately, and Wallace has looked off since coming back, but neither are flashing the defense lately.
I mean, if you ask Chris Finch, they just foul a lot. So,
yeah. Let's see.
I think it's just like I guess a little bit of a shooting slump for Lou Dort. I think he's always kind of been a little bit of an inconsistent, streaky shooter.
Yeah, I think his problem may be more like 3-point volume as opposed to percentages, because like he's shooting about 48 overall over the past 2 weeks, but he's only making 1 3-pointer per game. And the other thing, he doesn't get to the foul line a lot, but he's shooting 33% over the last 2 weeks. So, yeah, I think that's your problem right there. As for Wallace, coming off that shoulder injury, yeah, you kind of expect it to take a little time. And also, Aaron Wiggins has been sensational over the last month or so. So,
Yeah.
Wallace may not get as much time to kind of play through some things just because of how well Aaron Wiggins has played. So that's how I look at it.
Yeah, I think Caruso's also been playing a little bit better too.
Yeah.
The Thunder are just so deep that they don't have to continue to turn to the same guys if somebody's struggling or somebody else just playing better.
Yeah. Oh boy. I can't believe I'm even typing this. But is it Andre Drummond's season in 2025?
I think
my man
so.
went 8 for 8 from the foul line last night. Like I couldn't believe it.
That is crazy.
He 8 for 8 from the foul line. Fans were fired up because David Roddy got some points in late in the fourth quarter.
Roddy,
but yeah,
Roddy.
If that game wasn't a sign that they need to just pull the plug and get Embiid under the knife, get him healthy for next season, probably shut down Paul George as well because he's been banged up throughout. Tyrese Maxey struggled. He's got that finger issue on his shooting hand. I mean, you're down 50 at one point to the Chicago Bulls. Like, we're not talking Jordan era. We're not even talking like Derrick Rose, Joakim Noah era. You're down 50 to these guys. I think that's it. Gershon Yabusele getting hurt last night, so it may very well be Andre Drummond's season right now.
Yeah, I think it is. I'd be pretty, I don't want to say surprised, but I'm not expecting Embiid to play again this season.
Mm-hmm.
And then with Yabusele, he hurt his eye. So I think both of his eyes. Yeah. So Drummond could start, but at bare minimum, like he's a guy that can, I mean, as we saw last night, 8 rebounds in 14 minutes. He doesn't need to be on the floor long to get you a bunch of rebounds. So I think he's a guy that I'd be picking up.
Yeah. For those who don't know, Yabusele suffered a corneal abrasion in one eye. And according to Nick Nurse, the other eye was worse after he got hit in the face during the third quarter of last night's game. So we may be looking at an extended absence for him, which is unfortunate, obviously on a human level, but he's also been playing pretty well this year too. So Andre Drummond it is. Maybe out in Bona a little later, like during the silly season, but I wouldn't be rushing to add him right now. All right. Chad asks, is Jalen Suggs the new Jonathan Isaac where he exists, but we don't know if he actually exists? Lack of news on him out of the Magic is alarming.
Jonathan Isaac is like,
that's
a different tier. We're going to have to go through years of this before Suggs reaches Jonathan Isaac level, but it is alarming. There was, I think it was Jamal Mosley, or not. It was Jamal Mosley that said the report came out this morning that he's running, but no contact yet. And that's the exact same thing he said basically a week ago when they asked. So who knows? I think it is alarming, but it's going to be a while before he's on Jonathan Isaac tier of alarming.
Mm-hmm. This isn't a fantasy question, but we'll just hit this one quick.
How much time do you have here, Ref?
I don't need much time. Like, first and foremost, guys need to show up. Like, it's not Mikal Bridges' fault that the Knicks paid that price tag for him over the summer, but they paid it. Same with Karl-Anthony Towns. Outside of the third quarter, wasn't great on Sunday. They don't match up well against any of these teams. If you still want to play the same antiquated drop coverage, the Cavs, Celtics, and Thunder are going to light you up. And that's pretty much what happened. So, yeah, I'm not trying to hear the talk that some people trying to have that revisionist history. They weren't expecting to contend this year. That's garbage. You don't make those trades without the expectation that you're going to be a factor immediately. So play better. Guys need to show up. I think Josh Hart is going to be fine. But yeah, I'm not counting on Mitchell Robinson to be the savior once he's cleared to play either. So yeah.
I mean, the good thing is you don't have to. It doesn't really matter how often you beat him in the regular season because you have to beat him in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the whole idea that I think it's 0-6 against the 3 best teams in the league. Like, yeah, like a lot of teams lose to these teams. Like, I don't know. I think it's a little overblown that the Knicks haven't beat any of these guys yet because they'll need to do it in the playoffs. That's when it matters. So there's time to figure it out.
Yeah. Do you watch any other sports? Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of soccer, football, baseball once that gets going. But yeah, pretty much the major sports. How about you, Noah?
Pretty much just basketball and football.
Okay.
Unless I'm out at a restaurant and any sport is on the TV, in which case I tend to my attention is drawn away from whatever else is happening, and I'm all of a sudden watching a random sport. But as far as what I'm actively choosing to watch, it's mostly just basketball and football.
Good. A strategy question here from Kool-Aid. Is it crucial to have one streaming spot in the playoffs? I'm considering using Camera or Alvarado spots to stream, or just keep them.
I don't think either of those guys are guys I'd be looking to drop.
Yeah, I would not play around with Camera.
Yeah, that's your guy.
Yeah, he is.
Which, no, that's totally fair. He's great, but I think it's beneficial, but I don't think it's like necessary just because if you have such a good team that you don't want to stream anybody, I'd rather have that than get an extra game or 2 of streaming just to stream. I'd rather have the more productive players.
Yeah. It's a good way to put it. Brian wants to know why you're wearing a Clippers hat and not a Hawks hat. Go ahead.
I'm an NBA fan.
Yeah.
I am a Hawks fan, but I'm an NBA fan. I have stuff from almost every team. I think I was actually trying to make a list in my head the other day. I think there's like 7 teams that I've never had anything from. So I'm going to try and figure that out quickly. But
we're just hat fans, man.
Yeah.
All right. Jordy asked, should I drop Shaden Sharp to keep Andre Drummond? I don't know. That's a good question.
I mean, I guess it really depends on league format because if it's a points league, then I think I'd rather have Shaden Sharp. If it's a category league, probably would rather have Drummond. But that'd probably be more of a short-term answer. I think for talking rest of season, I'd rather have Shaden Sharp because I think at some point, even if Portland, they're not far out of the play-in, but I don't think they're gonna really make a realistic push. So at some point, I think they kind of pull the plug on some of the starters, and we see Shaden Sharp have a fun run again. And I think the final 2 or 3 weeks of the season could be really good for him.
Yeah, this is another one of those "what does your team need?" questions in terms of the short term. If you need rebounding, then I can certainly, see keeping Drummond, getting Drummond, and having him rostered. But yeah, like Noah said, I don't think it's going to take much to shut down Jeremy Grant for the rest of the season. Anthony Simons is someone else who could probably get shut down at some point. So yeah, I think I would rather have Sharp for the long term, but I can see an argument for Drummond in the immediate future, given the injuries in Philadelphia. And Brian clarifies that Chet Halliburton trade, he's got Khalil Ware, Isaiah Hartenstein, Donovan Clingan, and Jared Allen. So, yeah, you're probably going to be okay with the rebounding for sure.
Yeah.
Fire. They're not saying the full name. I'm sorry, man. But thank you for tuning into the show. Do we have any insight on Cat? Weekly lock league. Him starting on Wednesday, don't know if I should start him and be stuck with 0. That was another frustrating thing about Sunday's game. He hurt his knee with about 9 minutes left in the fourth, checked out, went to the locker room, returned to the bench, And then in a 20-point game, Tom Thibodeau proceeds to put him back into the game. I assume he's okay. We haven't heard anything, out of Knicks camp in terms of a potential injury update. But yeah, I can certainly see why you'd want to hold off on having him in your lineup when you lock on Wednesday. They don't play until then, so yeah, I probably wouldn't start him this week, to be honest with you. I know they play Philadelphia on Wednesday, so that's a reason to kind of roll the dice, see what he can do against them. But yeah, I don't know. I'd probably hold. If you can hold on that, maybe wait, because the next two games are Memphis and Miami on the road to finish week 17.
Yeah, he did practice today. At least Tom Thibodeau said that both him and Josh Hart practiced today. So, I would assume that means that he plays against the 76ers. So, I wouldn't be too worried about. That would just be my opinion, is that he's probably going to play, but we'll see. Hopefully that knee doesn't flare up again.
Yeah. On one side, I couldn't believe he was back in the game, but then I was like, yeah, I can believe that Tibbs would do that.
There's one coach in professional sports that is going to put him back in the game down 20.
Yeah. Is Chris Middleton worth adding if he was dropped in a 10-teamer? Or too volatile with him sitting games?
I don't think I would in a 10-teamer.
Yeah. 12-team, certainly worth considering, but 10, probably not. As you mentioned, Chris, him sitting out games for injury management reasons is a good reason not to make that plunge in a 10-teamer.
Yeah, and he's only played about 25 minutes in his first two games with Washington, so it's not like they're beating him a ton of minutes.
Yeah. All right, before getting to Chad's question, he notes that Andre Drummond had this opportunity to start the year and kind of flopped. That is true, but again, who else are they going to play? I think Adem Boner, you're not going to ask him to play 30-plus minutes. I don't think. Not right now, at least. Maybe we get to mid to late March, and then they go and throw him out there. But right now, I guess kind of is Andre Drummond season, even though there should be some risk. There's some concern here.
It's Cooper Flag season. Doesn't even really matter on the court. I just think Andre Drummond is probably the option there, at least for the next couple weeks. But if we even look back to that beginning of the season, he was starting and he was probably doing not as well as maybe we're hoping, but probably about what we should have expected, which is being good on the glass and occasionally getting you some defensive stats and not really providing value anywhere else. And I think that's probably what we should expect right now is a rebounding boost, and anything else is just a bonus.
Mm-hmm. All right. How do you see Mitchell Robinson's usage being? On most teams, we would expect a slow ramp up. Might mean sub 20 minutes throughout the rest of the fantasy season, but this is a Tibbs team, which changes things. I don't think he's going to play. I think they're going to control his minutes early on. I would sincerely hope so. You make a good point about Tibbs, but given how much time Mitch has missed, I don't think they're going to try to rush him out there. On the flip side, if Precious Achiuwa continues to play as poorly as he has, who knows?
Just looking back to last season, when he missed time from, December to late March, when he came back, coming off the bench, played 12 minutes, then 20 minutes. I think he only played more than 20 minutes one game over the final couple weeks of the season when he came back. Yeah. So I would expect early on, because also last year that was with Isaiah Hartenstein, not Karl-Anthony Towns. So I would assume about 15 minutes, like the center minutes when Cat isn't on the floor, and then maybe a couple minutes as an experimental thing to try and see how that looks with Cat at the 4 and Mitch Robinson at the 5.
Yeah.
That would probably be my expectations early on, and then slowly maybe get him up to 20 minutes per game. But I just don't think that the opportunity is there for him, even if he's fully healthy, to really play 25 to 30 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Do I drop Vassell to pick up Moses Moody, Kelly Olynyk, Matas Buzelis, or Kevin Herter?
That's one of those ones I just can't get in my head to do. Like Denver is
Yeah.
just in my mind too good to drop for any of those guys, even if all of them are probably worth at least considering as streaming options.
Mhm.
But I just I can't get that through my head to drop Vassell.
Yeah, like he's still starting. Maybe consider Moses Moody, but even then, that would be. I think it's a little too much of a risk for me. Um, Amongst these guys for like silly season, I think Olynyk's the one who's going to be the most popular. He and Buzelis, like we've seen Olynyk have huge silly season runs. Like that run in Houston a few years back was the stuff of legend. So I can see that happening, but yeah, I don't know if I could drop Devin Vassell right now for any of those guys.
Yeah. Like I think with Moody, I don't trust Steve Kerr to just keep him. Like
Yeah,
he's gonna change up his rotations
Kuminga's going to
every
be back
handful of games.
soon.
Yeah. Oh, in that case, like they'll move him right in the starting lineup, and then things won't go so well. So they'll take him back out, and then who knows who'll get the next opportunity? I don't know,
Mhm.
but uh, yeah, I don't think I could do it. But I do think a lot of these guys have some streaming appeal. If there's
Mhm.
somebody else on your team that you can drop.
Mark asks, I've been loving me some Davon Sharp lately. Do I drop him for Drummond?
Might. I think I mean we don't know when Noah Clowney's gonna be back, but Claxton's still there and playing at this point, and I don't know if Brooklyn's gonna go for a full hard tank at some point.
Mhm.
Um, we're not really sure yet. I would have thought that they would have been more focused on that throughout the season, but right now they're only a game and a half out of the play-in tournament, which I don't expect them to actually get into that. But I think I'd probably prefer Drummond in the short term, and I don't expect
Yeah.
Aaron Sharp to be a player where it's like if you drop him, he's going to be picked up the next day. Like you might be able to figure that out later
Mhm.
on.
Yes, I think, let's see here. Yeah, over the last 3 weeks, you're getting 0.9 steals and 1.4 blocks per game from Dayron Sharp. Like, he's not going to rebound at the level that Drummond does, but he's been more productive in those defensive stats. So that's something to consider, if you can't afford to take too much of a hit in those categories. But I don't know. I think I would rather have Drummond in the short term, and that's something you probably revisit either next week or the week after, right before fantasy playoffs. All right. Eve Misi's on the waiver wires. That where he belongs in standard leagues.
Probably,
Yeah.
unless I missed a big performance out of him this weekend. But no, 15 rebounds on Sunday. That's pretty good. But yeah, I think I would be fine dropping Emisi at this point.
Especially if we can get Carlo Makovic instead. But
Kelly Olynyk's there too.
yeah, that's the thing. Yep. I think Makovic, see, he's averaging 23 minutes per game over the past 3 weeks. Misi's at 25.7. So there hasn't been a huge disparity in the minutes there. So
Jeez.
I think 12 teamers Eve Misi at this point. I think it's fair to leave him on the waiver wire right now. All right. Marco says he's got Nurkic and Dayron Sharp and considering dropping one for Andre Drummond.
I think I'd be fine dropping
Yeah.
either. I guess I prefer Sharp because Nurk has played kind of well recently.
Mhm.
But if you're wanting to stash Dayron Sharp for like some potential silly season production, then I'd be fine dropping Nurkic for Drummond.
All right. Do you think Kuminga coming back will move Moody to the bench? I don't think so. I think it would be more about him potentially losing minutes to Kuminga within the rotation than him like replacing him. So yeah, I don't think that would happen just because of the spacing that Moody can provide. When you have a non-shooter, you have two non-shooters in that lineup in terms of Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green. So I don't think that's going to happen.
We'll see. Steve Kerr might feel differently.
Yeah, that's true.
He might want to, I don't know, move Buddy Hield back in for Moses Moody to see how Kuminga and Moody play together off the bench. He could take Moses Moody out to play a true center to give, I don't know, I guess Kuminga more space when he's coming off the bench. We'll see, and that probably won't last very long. It'll change. That's kind of been a theme for Golden State all year, is that we can't trust that anybody's going to remain in the starting lineup outside of Steph. And at this point, Jimmy Butler, like, he's not going to come off the bench either. But everybody else, nobody's safe.
All right. Last one for this show. Predict the Luka revenge game stat line. You know, I know this is the exciting game because it's the first one. I think he's going to do more in terms of the game in Dallas on April 9th.
Yeah, that one. Yeah. I'm like, it's tough because I don't know if, like, a lot of these superstar athletes, we just assume that, like, they're going to be able to, like, just play well in the moment despite all the emotions. But like, is Luka going to just have like a bad shooting night where he's a little overly aggressive? Is he just going to play within the system, just kind of do his normal thing? Or is he literally just going to have his way and score like 50? Like, I'm not sure. I remember the one that, this was a while ago, but when James Harden was traded to Houston, first game back against the Thunder, he'd been playing incredibly well for the Rockets. And then he like really struggled that first game back. It's like, these guys have been practicing against Luka and playing alongside Luka for years. Are they going to, have a better defensive strategy against him and, like, force him to make a few mistakes? Or is it just like it's been the case for most of the league for most of his career? It's just not going to matter. And he's just going to have 45, 15, and 15. Like, that would be a lot of fun to see. But I don't know. I think if my prediction, I'll say 37, 12, and 8.
Wow, that's
I'm expecting big things. So
right.
I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm under. I hope he goes off more than that.
I think I'm gonna say 27, 8, and we give him 11 assists. So I think we get a double out of him. But yeah, it's not like they've forgotten the man's skill set since they traded him. And they're going to be motivated to make sure he doesn't absolutely torch them in that first meeting. But yeah, that return to Dallas, I'm looking forward to that because that environment, regardless of what may be on the line in terms of playoff, positioning, that's going to be a huge one. So
for sure. I think they only forgot about his talent when Nico Harrison was discussing it. That was the only time that they forgot.
Yeah, one person forgot, basically.
Yeah. Forgot about that.
Yeah. All right. Thoughts about Andrew Wiggins in Miami for standard leagues?
He's been pretty good. And like one of their better sources of offense. I mean, Tyler Hero's still the top scoring option, but he struggled Monday night. And Andrew Wiggins played pretty well. He's got at least 20 points in the 3 games since the All-Star break. So I think pretty good option.
Yeah, I think the only concern is the efficiency. Shooting 37%
for sure
from the field over the last 3 weeks. But if you're in a situation where you're punting free throw percentage, I don't think it's going to be a huge deal for you. About a top 75 player when you remove that category on Basketball Monster. So, yeah, I think he's been solid. You certainly want to see him be a bit more efficient, but I think he's continued to bounce back from a really bad 23-24 season. All right, Daniel, thanks for tuning in. Would you drop Risache or Nick Smith Jr. for Keyshawn George? 10-team, 9-cat head-to-head.
I think I'd drop both, but I'm trying to see which one I think I'd rather drop. That's tough because Reese Shea's role has just been kind of inconsistent, but Nick Smith
Yeah.
Jr.'s production has been inconsistent, even if the minutes are consistently there. I think I'd rather drop Nick Smith. I don't know. Maybe that's a slight bias towards a Hawks player there.
Yeah.
But Reese Shea's been quietly good and very
Mhm.
underappreciated overall this season. But again, I'd rather have Keyshawn George than either of them. He's been fantastic, especially recently.
Yeah. I think I'd probably drop Risa Shea just because of who's behind him. Like if he has
Yeah.
a comparatively quiet night, you may see more of Karis LeVert. Like this doesn't really not really a direct competition, but George Niang's played a lot of minutes too.
Yep.
They've been starting Muhammad Gay, so Niang's been a good spot from a fantasy standpoint recently. So Smith, he's going to play a lot, even if he's not going to do much on some nights. So I think that would probably give him the edge. But yeah, I think I would hold Nick Smith if I had to pick one of those two to hold. But yeah, I'd rather have Keyshawn George than either one of them right now, personally.
There's I'm just seeing this on Twitter. It's from Nick's videos. I guess it's SNY's Nick's account is a quote for Tom Thibodeau. It was like an hour ago. Said we've gone 50-something games without our starting center. Do you think Mitch Robinson comes back and starts at center, Karl Anthony Towns at power forward, and Josh Hart off the bench?
That could happen. I could see that happen, but it's not like they're going to teach Karl Anthony Towns how to move his feet laterally all of a sudden. Like that. They'll probably do it. They just don't match up well with Cleveland or Boston at this point. So yeah.
I just thought it could have also just been him, saying Mitch Robinson is like our starting center, like he's a starting center talent, but he's not actually going to start it. It could have just been coach speak or he just misspoke. I'm not sure exactly, but I just thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Will Yabusele adopt the Kareem goggles and return top 100 value for the rest of the season with a potential Embiid shutdown?
I think two separate questions there. I think hopefully he takes the goggles, but top 100, that's a little bit lofty. I don't know if he's going to be able to be that good, but I think he has a guy that is rosterable and I guess just should be rostered in standard leagues.
Yeah. I don't know if you're going to get top 100 value from him, but yeah, if he can play pretty soon, he would certainly be a player to have rostered because at this point, I don't know why they would consider having Embiid play again this season. Like the way he looked on Saturday was just downright sad, and he's not healthy. He needs time. And as I said on Super Bowl Sunday, he may need another procedure. So why not kickstart that process now? Potentially keep your lottery pick and then see where all that takes you next year.
Yeah.
All right. Daniel also asked, is Dante DiVincenzo going to be a shallow league must-roster player upon his return?
That's a tough one. Do you think that he starts immediately, or do you think Mike Conley – because I know he was starting before he got hurt in place of Mike Conley, but now Mike Conley's been starting. Like, do you think that he immediately starts, or do you think he comes off the bench when he comes back?
I think he'll come off the bench to start. Just kind of get his legs back because he's dealing, toe injury. We'll see how he's running, whatnot once he returns. But I think eventually he will start. Shallow leagues, that's a good question. I think a 12-teamer, he would certainly be a must roster, I think, as a starter. 10 teams, I don't know if I can go that far, but yeah, because I think the question that's how soon is he playing starters minutes? If it's pretty soon, then yeah. But if not, I don't know if I can go that far in a 10-teamer.
Yeah, I think if he is starting, then yeah, I'd roster him in a 10-team league. But if he's not, or if they're limiting his minutes, and also I don't know exactly when he's supposed to be back, but of their next 5 games, they have 2 sets of back-to-backs in there, so it's a toe injury. Like, do they rest him one leg of each of those, and then you're getting 3 games of those 5? It's tough.
Yeah. All right. Can Chris Dunn's Dyson Daniels steals impression somehow keep up?
Dyson Daniels light, but
yeah,
no, it's been really good. I think he's averaging like 4 steals a game over the last 5. 3 of those games had at least 5 steals. I think he had a 6 steal game in there as well. So like, I mean, steals are just such a volatile stat. It's like, I think the least consistent stat. So it can, where he's like a really good source of steals, but 5 steals consistently, I think it would be difficult to expect it. But if it happens, then great, just enjoy it. But I think the steals production will be there.
Yeah, I think I don't know about averaging 4 steals per game, but I don't think it's unrealistic to expect him to average 2. So I think he can be a Dyson Daniels light for the rest of the season. You're not going to get much offensively, but
yeah.
Right. Looking to next season, do you think my guy Tari Eason is finally a full-time starter? Love that dude. I love Tari Eason as well, but I don't think he's going to be a full-time starter there. I think Amin Thompson is more likely to be a starter. For who, I don't know, but I think his skill set would I think it may fit a little bit better in terms of the offensive end of the floor. They're both really good defenders, but yeah, I think Amin Thompson would be the one I would kind of look to as a potential starter next year as opposed to Eason.
Yeah, I think the reports, or especially around the trade deadline, was that Houston didn't want to break up this young core until they went through a playoffs together, and then I guess kind of evaluate this offseason. So in a scenario where they trade for a superstar and they have to, like, I guess, consolidate a few of these young guys, and maybe there's a scenario where they trade away Jabari Smith. I'm not saying he is the guy that will be traded away. I would assume that either Dylan Brooks or Fred VanVleet plus a young guy or 2 is like what they end up doing if they try and bring in a superstar. In which case that could open up a starting spot for Tari Eason, depending on who is brought in. There's also a chance that Tari Eason's one of the guys that's shipped out, in which case he could potentially start elsewhere. But I think it's, he's incredibly talented and a really good fantasy player. But I think just the injury history and concern there is going to prevent a lot of teams from maybe saying, okay, we want this guy to be our full-time starter, because he's not even playing back-to-backs right now. And I think that's probably more of a precautionary thing, but I think he's going to be a guy that plays a significant bench role to the point where he's almost playing starters minutes and is a really good fantasy option. But I think the odds of him becoming a full-time starter next year are pretty low.
Yeah. All right. Daniel asked, Noah Clowney or Montes Buzelis in Dynasty?
I'm trying to see, because I'm working on rankings right now. I was trying to see. I think I have Buzelis ahead of him. Yeah. I'll say Buzelis. I think Clowney was really good to end last season, but when he's played a lot this year, I haven't been as impressed by it.
Yeah.
And then who knows what changes could happen if they draft someone of a similar position this summer, and then Claxton's still there, and then Day'Ron Sharp's there. So I think the situation's a little bit better for Buzelis because he seems to be more of a priority in Chicago. And I've kind of liked what I've seen from him as a rookie.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think the prioritization factor is pretty much spot on, so yeah, I'd certainly take Buzelis. And this next question, I don't think it's meant to be disrespectful of Buzelis, but we're going to ask it. Is Buzelis the new Pokuševski? And will this unicorn actually make it in the association? Nah, come on, man.
Wait, are you saying that?
I think no. I didn't say it.
You're saying that he won't make it in the association? Or you're saying that he's not the new Poku?
He's not the new Poku. Like, I don't think the skill sets are.
He's what Poku is supposed to be. He was what everybody wanted Poku to be, but he was drafted earlier.
Yeah. No, I don't think he's the new Poku.
Because nobody can replace Poku in your heart.
This is borderline slander, but yeah, I don't know. I think they're going to travel different paths, and I think Buzelis is going to be fine. I think he's far more aggressive than Poku was when he entered the NBA. I think Poku's build may have had. They're both wiry players, but no. All right, I'm glad you cleared that up. It was meant as a fun question.
I thought it was supposed to be like a positive, like we all liked or thought Poku was going to be really good.
Yeah.
Will this unicorn actually make it in the association like a good thing? Like,
okay, yeah,
we like Buzelis.
Yeah, that's on me. I misread that, but yeah, they're different players. I think Buzelis is going to be fine in the league. You know, obviously we'll see what the Bulls do to build that roster out in the coming months, but yeah, I think he's going to be a really good piece for them, for the Bulls moving forward.
Yeah, I think he's gonna be really good. I think the Poku comparison is kind of interesting in the fact that they are both just kind of like lanky 7-foot players that can space the floor, block shots. But yeah, I think Buzelis is actually going to work out as opposed to Poku, who didn't.
Yeah,
sadly.
Yeah, so that's the last question. We'll go ahead and wrap it up on that. Thank you all for your questions and tuning in. Enjoy the games tonight. You know, obviously Luka hosting the Mavericks. That's going to be on the marquee. That Milwaukee-Houston game should be pretty good too. So
yeah,
got some good opportunities to watch some basketball tonight. So thanks again for tuning in and enjoy the rest of your Tuesday.